Hello and welcome to Betfair Sports Podcast, previewing the one-day series between England and India. The first of 5 matches between the two sides takes place at Durham on Saturday the 3rd of September, and I'm delighted to say that joining us to preview all the action throughout the rest of the summer is Michael Vaughan, Betfair's cricket ambassador. And Michael, how important is it for England now to keep that momentum going after that hugely successful Test series?
Yeah, I mean, England in England playing one-day cricket have been successful over the last few years, and I think the fact that the Indians have been bullied in the Test series, been pushed into a corner. I don't think it'll be a similar series to the Test series where it'll be so one-sided. I think India will play better cricket in ODI cricket. They seem to be more geared towards that. They're the world champions. I look at their team and they've lost so many of the senior players. Sehwag's gone home, Yuvraj Singh's gone home, Zaire Khan's home, Harbhajan Singh's gone home, Gambia's gone home, Ishant Sharma's gone home. So it actually gives a new, younger, fresher set of players a chance to play in English conditions. A lot of inexperience, but you'd rather have younger players desperately wanting to play rather than what I've seen so far on this tour is an older group of players who really haven't had the determination to go out there and play. They play that much cricket, they've looked tired, and a younger set might be just what India need, but I just think in English conditions, we saw against Sri Lanka how England prepared pitches with a bit of grass on it, and if they do that once more against India, I see nothing but an England victory, and the fact that the seamers will come into play. If it's dry and they play flat wickets, well, India will have a chance, but I just don't think England will do that.
England will be odds on, so you still think even at a price of maybe at 1.8 on Betfair for this series, that ranks as pretty a good price?
Yeah, and England are a developing one-day side. They're the number one ranked Test team, and it's been talked about a lot over the weeks of how great a Test match team they are and how great they could be. But if you really want to be a team of an era, you have to dominate one-day cricket as well, and they haven't done that. So they'll feel that now's the time to start really developing for the team for 2015 World Cup. They beat Sri Lanka earlier on this summer, who were a decent one-day side, again in our conditions. You look back to 2007 when we played India, we lost the Test series, and we actually won the one-day series 4-3 with Paul Collingwood as captain. So India don't always like playing in our conditions in one-day cricket. So I just see no other than an England victory because of the fact that England players are so determined, desperate. There's a few new faces fighting for the places. And the Indian side, full of inexperienced players, although very talented. I just think it might take them a few games to get into the series.
Just on the England squad, Michael, on the series ahead, Alistair Cook obviously returning to the top of the baton and captain. Talk about his position and also the decision to leave out Kevin Peterson from the one-day squad. Do you think that's the right call, considering that he was one of the real marquee players? He always has been, but the way he bullied the Indian opposition, do you think that's maybe just a trick miss, the way he could really dominate in the series? I
honestly don't know. I mean, whether he's been rested or dropped. I honestly think he might have just been moved aside to just have a look at Ian Bell further up the order. Ben Stokes will come in and bat at number 6. Again, a chance to look at him. And I think he's the right type of player to bat at number 6, a guy that can hit the ball out of the ground. The likes of Butler, Bairstow, Stokes, they're your number 6s who can really hit the ball down the ground for 6 pretty early on in the innings. Ian Bell can't do that. He's more of a guy that needs to be at the top of the order. So leaving Kevin Peterson out gives Ian Bell the chance to go further up the order. So I think they want to have a look at him there. That is why England are so strong. They've got so much depth that they can use the terminology of being rested rather than dropped a lot easier than you could have done 3, 4, 5 years ago. And Kevin Peterson will have a time out of the team, and England will have a look at someone else at that number 4 position, and if he does well, he'll stay there. Kevin only averaged 23 in the last 2 years in one-day cricket, as good as he's played in Test match cricket this year, as good as attacking as he's been in 2020 cricket. He just hasn't found his form in the one-day format. So it's a chance for someone new, but if you ask me would I want Kevin Peterson in my one-day side, I'd say absolutely. So I'd expect to see him back for the India tour. I'm
just going to throw some prices at you for the top England bat. Alistair Cook 3.60, Jonathan Trott 4, Keyswetter 5, Bell 5.5 as mentioned, Morgan's in there 5.5, Bopara 9, Stokes 13, Samit Patel 15. Those are the sort of names to focus on. What would be your initial reaction to maybe plucking out one for the top England batsman?
Well, it's interesting until we've seen the formula. Because I believe that you can't have Bell, Trott and Cook in the top four. I think we need more aggression in that top four. I see them as good touch players, and in one-day cricket, you can only afford to have two of those in your top six. You need more aggression and power. Trott's always worth backing because he gets his runs, and he's going to score runs. But I just think against an India attack that's going to be full of spin, I would think someone like Owen Morgan should have a really good series. He's the best player spinning the side. He might get moved up to number 4, so it gives him more time to bat in the middle.
So Owen Morgan, then he's trading at about 5. And for those listening, Michael, when they're not aware of Ben Stokes, a new name in the lineup, he was earmarked quite early, and then he got that injury with the finger injury. So I don't think he's going to bowl because he can do that. What have you seen in him, and what do you like about Ben Stokes?
Oh, he's an aggressor. He reminds me very much of someone like Darren Lehman, the way that he hits the ball, and that's a great compliment to give a young player, because Darren Lehman was an exceptional player. And I just think he's free. He's a kind of a player that just watches the ball and tries to whack it. He's got decent base. He's got good hands. He can get the hands through the ball very easily. His bowling is pretty good as well, but he can't bowl at the minute. He fields nicely. I just think he's the type of cricketer that the England side have seen and have made the right call in getting him in early, giving him some games, and hopefully giving him many games towards that 2015 World Cup. I see players like Hales, Bairstow, Butler, Stokes, Patel, Dernbach. I see those guys playing a prominent role in England being successful in the next World Cup. I really think they're the type of guys that we should be building the team around.
Is this a real good chance then to really kick on? Now, number 1 Test nation, already reigning T20 world champions. Is the chance to grab that moniker too? Yeah,
and that's the I guess the legacy of this team will not be in the Test days, because yes, the number 1, but Test match cricket in England, particularly over the last 10 years, has always been successful. We've always won lots of games, and where we struggled is in the subcontinent or in one-day cricket in World Cups. And to be a team of a generation like the West Indies were and the Australians were, you've got to win World Cups as well as Test matches. And I think that's the next goal of this team, is to make sure that by the time we get to the 2015 World Cup, we'll have a better chance of winning it. The ECB have given them a huge opportunity by changing the Ashes series around, so for the next World Cup, it won't be coming off the back of a long winter in Australia, because they brought it forward to 2013-14, so they'll have a real good build-up going into a World Cup, which the England side hasn't had for 4 or 5 attempts, so that should give the team a great chance.
Well, assess the Indian batting lineup, because they're missing a few big names for this series, and the price is just a second. Just your thoughts on where England are off the back of that one-day series win, the 3-2, seems ages ago now, against Sri Lanka. What were the good signs there for you, Michael?
Well, I thought Alistair Cook did well. There was a lot of talk about his position in the side, and there still is, believe it or not, but I thought he handled the job nicely. He captained well and led from the front with his batting, scored lots of runs, got a good 100.
He played a reverse sweep as well, didn't he?
Played a reverse sweep, and he even took that into a Test match at Edgbaston. So he's willing to learn, and I think when you've got characters like that, you've got to be very dangerous of writing them off, because they will go in the nets, they will go into the training sessions, and they'll get better and better. And he'll know that this series he's got to go on again from the last series and just improve his game a little bit more. I like what I saw. I really enjoyed Dernbach. I think he's just what England need in one-day cricket, a guy that can bowl 90 miles an hour, but also change up. I don't think England have had that. And the death bowling is so important on flat wickets, of getting wickets at the end when players are trying to hit it out of the ground. And he won England the game against Sri Lanka at the Old Trafford, and won England the series with that performance at the end. So I think he's a real find. Cook did well. The likes of Trott and Bell didn't do as well as probably they should have done. And Bell in particular was found out at number 6, because he isn't a number 6 in one-day cricket. So it's a great opportunity in this series to see him higher up the order to try and establish himself.
Do you see them using Finn at all?
I don't actually, not at the minute. I think in 2020 cricket, he's probably be Bresnan, Broad, Swan, Dernbach, Patel, and probably a Bopara or Kevin Peterson, a mix-up kind of bowler. I think you only need 4 main bowlers in 2020 cricket, and you make up from your 5th bowler with 2 or 3 different options. In the 50-over format, I'm sure he'll have a game or 2 in the series, but I don't think he'll start. I think it'll be Anderson, Broad, Bresnan and Dernbach who'll start in his first game at Chesterley Street.
So that's the England lineup. On to India, and they're missing a few names, and off the back of a rather miserable tour, even against some of the county sides. I think they've beaten Sussex, but they haven't had much success. So it may be a tour just to forget about. Is this a chance for those younger players, though? As you said, I mean, it's a real sort of no-win, no-lose situation, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean they can't get any worse in terms of what they've done on the tour. And with young players, what I'd hope to see, and it'd be a travesty if you don't see his enthusiasm and a desperation to be out there with loads of energy in the field. I mean, one of the huge things that was so different in the two teams in the Test series was the field, and it was just chalk and cheese. It really was. It was like watching a military operation with England and then like a pub team with the Indians in the field. They were so poor. Same with the bowling. It was, England bowling at 85 miles an hour plus, India bowling at 75 miles an hour plus. So it was just a completely different contrast. So in the one-day series, we want to see a more energetic India side, a more vibrant team, a team that would play more without the fear, and hopefully have a lot more kind of areas in which they can and attacking them. But I just think, again, in one-day cricket like Test match, you need bowlers. You need good bowlers to restrict the opposition. And I just think India are missing so many bowlers. Ishant Sharma, Zaid Khan, Harbhajan Singh. Yuvraj Singh in one-day cricket does a good job. You've got 4 guys there who were part of a World Cup winning side just a few months ago, bowling the majority of their overs. So they've got a younger set of bowlers who will play in the series. It gives a chance for the likes of Mishra, Ashwin, maybe Ojai to come in and play. But I just think with that, your batting's going to have to be so strong, and you're going to have to score so many runs to stop the England side from winning. So that's going to be difficult for them.
Is there a chance, and looking at the start, and there's various markets for first the openers, totals, etc., for England to really dominate this new bull attack? As you said, that they lack a bit of pace, and with RP Singh and Praveen Kumar, you can just bat out your crease, can't you, and just dominate them. You can get off to a really good start.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great opportunity for guys to go and score and get big runs, as the guys did in the Test series. They just sniffed an opportunity that wickets were good, the ball was swinging a little bit, but they didn't fear the Indian attack, so they just knew they concentrated, they were going to get lots of runs. Again, the ODI batsmen should be thinking exactly the same, that it's a great chance for players to go on and get hundreds, and hundreds wins your games. That's been one of the weaknesses of England one-day cricket over 10 or 15 years, that we've not had enough hundreds being scored, and this is a series where the batsmen will know that it's a chance for them to get big scores.
How about a couple of the names that many of our listeners may be unfamiliar with? Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. Hopefully they'll be added to bring some oomph to the lineup. Yeah,
2 very talented players. Again, in subcontinent conditions, very dangerous on those flat, low, bouncing pitches. In England, I expect them to find it a little bit more difficult. There's always a bit more lateral movement.